Okay, well, according to my notes, this is episode 61 of Behind the Screen. We're in season 7, I think. Episode 14 of the current season. Current season, of course, being Trinity Continuum Core, or TCC. My name is Ryan, or Comrade Bubbles, if you prefer. I am happy with either, really. Or Moonlit Bard. I go by the Moonlit Bard online in some places. Just a general disclaimer. I do not speak for Onyx Path, nor is this project official material. All views and opinions expressed are my own, and this material will be available to buy on the Storypath Nexus. I'm merely a grateful fan with the platform. I am also disabled, so I do experience muscle spasms and twitching, which can, depending on which muscle groups are affected, lead to some worsening of my natural stutter, whichever you prefer, as well as some slurring of speech. Again, this is something I just have normally, but the muscle spasms aggravate and worsen it. I do also struggle with multiple trains of thought, so I'll try to finish one before moving on to the next. So if you raise a point in chat, and please do feel free to raise points in chat, I will try to acknowledge it. That's what I'm looking at when I look to the, I guess, my left, your right. I'm looking at my chat display. So I'll try to acknowledge that I've seen it, finish what I'm talking about, and then loop back around to what's been raised in chat. So as it says up here, please do hereish. Please do feel free to ask questions or talk about anything related to role playing, to playing, running, preparing for role playing games. Ideally Onyx Path, because it's their channel. But I will generally handle any role playing game I can, and if I can't, I will try to find an answer or someone who can provide an answer for you. Now, sad news this week, I guess. Chaos, anarchy in the streets. Yesterday, no matter how you personally feel about it, yesterday was the 4th of July, so there was no Monday meeting. It will be a Tuesday meeting, but as I stream this show at 9 a.m. Eastern, I highly suspect the Tuesday meeting won't be until the evening, I guess afternoon, and then the Tuesday meeting notes will go out in the evening. So that's an issue. So here's a completely unofficial recap of the meeting notes. I did the meeting this week, and it was me and no one else. So what I'm actually going to do is, because I don't do this very often, I'm just going to go to DriveThruRPG and I'm going to recap how my community content is doing, because I haven't done that for ever on the show. So let's see how it is all doing, shall we? Oh, ratings have been added to a couple of things. That's exciting. So just as a general recap for the show, obviously, this show is Behind the Screen. It is a community content focused show. Well, it's a community focused show in which I write content to demonstrate how you can do it. But if anyone is curious about my credentials about that kind of thing, I'm not going to actually link to each individual item. But hey, I've got the time to spare. This is a list of everything that I have on the community content sites on DriveThruRPG. So we've got Scion, A Rude Awakening, which was the first product I wrote on the show. It is a silver seller. I don't know what hit silver, I'll be honest. It has an average of 4.5 stars over 3 ratings. Go me. And then, of course, there was Chronicles of Darkness, The Radford Estate, which Scion, A Rude Awakening was an introductory adventure for Scion. Radford Estate is an introductory adventure for Mortal Chronicles of Darkness. That's not a metal bestseller, unfortunately, and we've got 1 5-star rating on that. So that's pretty high. I was also involved in Scion Pride 2021. That's at 5 stars. All the money that I make from that goes to charity. The project coordinators, all this is community content, honestly. The project coordinators for that gave us the option if we could have royalties, or we could just put the money towards the charities that the supplement supports. And as you'd expect, it's Pride-themed options for Scion. I believe there is one coming out for this year, but I believe it's been delayed for several reasons. I was also personally involved with Monty Corgi's Acid Shanties, which is a selection of Acid Sea pirate-themed options for Pugmire. for Realms of Pugmire games. That's sitting at 4 stars with 1 rating. Currently no reviews. Back to products that I've directly written. We've got Scion the Inkborn being another thing I wrote on the show, and that was just a custom Pantheon for Scion. That's at 5 stars with 1 rating. That's a best copper seller. When did that happen? I really should check my own products more often, but that's a copper seller, so that's pretty cool. A couple of months ago, more than a couple at this point, you may have seen the Trinity Continuum Story Path Showcase for Core. I was involved in that, and you can buy the notes that Travis wrote for that from Drive-Thru RPG. I'm a contributor for that. I supplied my character sheet and the backstory I created for the character. People of the Snow being the Frostlands of Fenric themed Scarred release I did, again on stream. We've got 1 5-star rating on that. That's not a metal bestseller, but it's Scarred. But Alan graciously gave me a 5-star review last November. Thank you. Also, if you're interested in making Frostlands of Fenric stuff, I have a Microsoft Word template up for Frostlands of Fenric material that will be there until there's an official one from Onyx Path. I temporarily forgot whose channel I was on then. That was embarrassing. Going back to stuff I've written, slightly related to the content of the show, Trinity Continuum Aberrant, the Horizon Initiative. It's just a selection of, I think, 18 devices for your Trinity Continuum Aberrant game, as well as a small allegiance that your characters can belong to, and some associated background information, and general useful information. I don't think that doesn't have any ratings. I don't think it's a metal bestseller. It's a copper seller. Heck yes, go me. Sincerely, like, I'm obviously extremely flippant a lot of the time, but thank you to everyone who buys my material. It means a lot. Patrons of the Scarred Lands, a project put together by none other than Alan GHL SPD, which is just Gelspad without the vowels. That was a lot of fun. If you've got a Warlock character you need a patron for, or if you just want a weird patron for the adventuring party, it's there. Background, characteristics, personalities, adventuring hooks, goals, behaviours, all of that stuff. Some high quality stuff right there. And also, it's not Onyx Path related, but hey, this is my show, I can shill. I actually wrote a role-playing game, and it's got a 5-star review. So that's pretty cool. Rating, sorry, no reviews. No metal seller, but as far as I know, 3 people have bought it, but one of them was kind enough to leave a rating. So that's very nice of them. Sorry, 2 people. I think it's 2 people who bought it. Through Drive-Thru, anyway. It's also on itch. But that's the Monday meeting notes, like general how the business, i.e. me, is doing. The future plans, obviously, we've got the content I'm working on right now, which I guess in the project timeline would be in development. I flogged this joke into the ground, I'm so sorry. Coming up on the horizon, of course, with an eye towards the future of the company and future projects, groundwork is being done, and by which I mean I've started thinking about the next season of the show. And I made this announcement on the Community Content Fundamentals panel, but the next season of the show will be for Canis Minor. It will be Pugmire related, and I'm thinking it will probably be along the lines of Road Wardens and Banditry options for character options for Pugmire and Monarchy of Mao characters. So that's pretty exciting. A release roundup, obviously, I don't really have one. This product will be finished when it is finished, and I will release it onto the Storypath Nexus when I can. I have very limited time. But that's the totally unofficial, fake Monday meeting notes from the show. Actual official Onyx Path stuff, as I said, there was no Monday meeting notes, but the next crowdfunding campaign will be Trinity Continuum Ether, and if you have any passing interest in that, or are just curious about what it is, part 1 of a series of serial fiction has been released. I had a quick glance at it earlier, and it's pretty good. I believe it was written by Matthew Dawkins, and it's just steampunk sci-fi. in the Trinity Continuum, and what's not to like about that. And then the other important link I suppose to provide is the release roundup for June. If you click through to that link, you'll be able to see all of the projects and where they are at the time of that post going live. Reminder, the Monday meeting notes only gives you updates. It doesn't give you the whole thing anymore, which if you click through to that link and then read the list, there's a reason why they stopped showing everything that is in the timeline, in the pipeline, because it quite frankly is an absurd amount of content. As the comment from Corey Reynolds reads, "You guys are freaking industrious," end quote. Last thing to touch upon before getting into the show itself, the 10th anniversary sales continue up until the 9th of July, which is Friday, right? Yeah, Saturday, sorry. The focus, so this month is Chronicles of Darkness, and the focus up until the 9th up until Saturday is Vampire the Requiem 2nd edition. So if you're missing any books for that, please, it's worth checking to see if any of the books you are missing are on sale. There's some. Please just be aware that some books you think should. There may be some books you think that should be on sale but aren't because they're not for the right edition, or because they're technically a White Wolf book and not an Onyx Path book, or just there's some mislabeling going on. Obviously, Chronicles at this point is an incredibly well-supported game line with a lot of supplementary source books, and the more material you make, the more mistakes are likely to creep through the cracks, to fall through the cracks. Sorry. So please be aware of that. However, I think that's the fake Monday meeting notes, the actual Onyx Path information. I think that's all. I had to talk about. Hang on, there's a quick way to check this. Also, I've just realised I'm on 50 pages in my show notes document. I should probably think about creating a new one when I start the new season, just to keep things moving along. Actually, you know what I can do that I usually do. Just a little bit awkward to do it. I will, of course, give you the media breakdown for the week. Because it's important for people to know what's coming up on the channel, specifically. I don't know, especially if you're watching this after the fact. So if you give me a second to navigate the file structure on my hard drive, so I can get to that information. Open faster, please. Okay, so today 9 a.m. Eastern. This show obviously started 20 minutes ago. Well, 15 recording, 20 with the pre-roll. Tomorrow, 9 p.m. Eastern, Scarred Lanterns of Shelzar, Deadman's Rust. Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern, Hunt the Vigil Twilight Network. Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern, Mage the Ascension, Neon Gore. I presume that's pronounced Zocro, and that might be on a different channel. Saturday, 8 p.m. Eastern, be hosted, I assume. Saturday, 8 p.m. Eastern, Hunter the Vigil, the Black Royal Regatta Decennium. And Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern, Trinity Continuum Assassins from Devil's Up Gaming. Which obviously is the second half of their crossover Chronicle Trinity Continuum game with Adventure and Assassins. And round of applause to Silent Godsend for finishing their first season. They will be returning in August, as far as I am aware. So that's all of that out of the way. Do you want to actually get started with the actual recap of the show? So what is the Trinity Continuum? Trinity Continuum is a game line that uses the story path system. The story path system being a spiritual successor to the storyteller system that powers Chronicles of Darkness. And I assume Trinity Continuum first edition, but I could be wrong about that. It's a skill-based dice pool system where your character sheet gives you ratings in attributes and skills, and you add those ratings together and you roll a number of 10-sided dice equal to the rating total. 8, 9, or 10 is a success. A 10 you can re-roll until you no longer get 10s, and each one counts as a success every time you re-roll it. With those successes, you buy off the difficulty of actions. So you generate 4 successes, difficulty 2 action, you buy off the difficulty of 2, you succeed, you have 2 successes left over. Additional mechanics that can add a wrinkle, mostly being complications. Complications cannot erase your success, but they can add complications to the narrative through injury conditions, through causing you to be delayed in whatever you're trying to do, through revealing your presence to someone you don't want to see you, all of that kind of stuff. And complications are bought off with successes, much like difficulty. Please note, you can succeed at an action, but the complication still applies unless it's bought off. Also, I suppose technically it's possible to buy off the complication and not the difficulty to ensure that even though you fail, there's no worse effects. If you fail an action, and this mechanic will probably come up today, so I'm going to explain it now rather than later. If you fail an action, you are awarded consolation. Most common form of consolation is a point of momentum, or 2 if it's a botch. A botch being if you roll at least one, and no successes. Momentum is a communal resource that can be spent to add 1d10 to a pool on a 1-for-1 basis, and powers certain skill tricks. There is incentive to spend momentum. If you spend more than, I think it's if you spend more than half the momentum pool in a session, everyone gets 1 XP. So make good use of it, is what I'm saying. The game is predicated on you spending momentum, and the gameplay loop kind of falters if you don't. Momentum keeps things moving, because if you fail, you then technically get a better chance of succeeding at the next action because you can add extra dice to the action. But it is primarily focused around kind of sci-fi action adventure. The core rulebook, again TCC, is defaults to modern day. There are other time periods explored. As I said earlier, Ether is like steampunk. Adventure is 1930s pulp. Aberrant is near future superheroes. Aeon is far future psychic characters and like sci-fi stuff. Anima coming out is cyberpunky things. But because the community content sites do have a restriction on what material you can write for them, and it's always worth checking before you start writing the material if what you're writing is eligible for upload and selling. I'm keeping this to TC core technically. Aberrant is included also in the on the Storypath Nexus, but to keep things simple, to give this as broad an appeal as possible, and therefore maximize sales, this supplement will only require Trinity Continuum core, and this supplement, titled Wittily, Horrors of the Continuum, is about adding horror to your Trinity Continuum core games, although it will obviously apply to any. Ideally, it'll be generic enough that it will apply to any Trinity Continuum game line. But because it is a horror-themed supplement, it does open with a discussion about safety tools and the importance of them. This goes for any genre, any game, but particularly like horror games, because the idea is to scare characters, not players. But safety tools are just important generally, as I say. And so far in the supplement, I have talked you through how mechanics can I have talked you through definitions of horror, provided advice for avoiding common harmful tropes in those horror genres, and then provided some mechanics that can flavour the game in that direction, in the direction of the genre that you're aiming for. And so far we've covered body horror, cosmic horror, folk horror, psychological horror, and comic horror. I did not misspeak or repeat cosmic horror. I said comic horror, things along the line of, I guess, Shaun of the Dead, Scooby-Doo, things of that nature. And again, all of this is supposed to be inspirational. It's not supposed to be this is the only way you can do it, because it isn't. And I will have ideas of, like if I said, I've provided 2 of everything. I've provided Two scene mechanics, 2 skill tricks, 2 edges, and 2 gifts. I have to get the game terms the right way around in my head. I could create more. Sure, I might when I do editing, or I might update the document periodically as more ideas occur to me, or I might do like a half-size document with just additional material. Who knows? I'll go crazy when that happens. It's all just intended as inspirational material, much like this show. It's intended to show you how you can do a thing, and to provide that basis of material from which you can then build upon or throw out. Who cares? I don't. Presumably, if you're reading the document, you've bought it. I've got money in my drive-through account, so at that point, as long as you're not sharing the document illegally, I don't care what you do with it. You can harass me for all I care. You've still bought it. Still, technically, I win. Please don't harass me. I'm very fragile mentally. Which isn't a joke. My mental health is terrible. Like most creatives. So, the final genre of the... So I'm just checking I've got the rulebook open. I do. The final genre that we will be dealing with in the supplement. And reminder, after I've done this final genre, I will be going back through and provide... Punch my headset. I'll be going back through and adding anomaly powers. I might do pre-gen antagonists. I haven't quite decided yet. And if I do pre-gen antagonists, I'll do the anomaly power separate, and then I might do one antagonist with a variation of an anomaly power, or a whole a new anomaly power in general. But genres we've covered. I'm just going to collapse the side menu on Microsoft Word. I'm going to move the chat so I can see what I'm doing. That works. Body horror, comic horror, cosmic horror, folk horror, and psychological horror, which leaves us with disaster horror. I completely forgot that I'd already defined disaster horror, so go me, pat on the back for me. I thought I was going to have to do that first, and I got very anxious about defining it. Now, before I get any further into the show, all joking aside, I'm aware that we've had 20 minutes of me just waffling and making light of everything. All joking aside, I completely understand if you want to turn off now. If you want to go elsewhere on Twitch, if you want to stop the video on demand, whatever. Do what you need to do for your mental health. Everything right now in the world is really bad. We're still living through a pandemic, despite what a lot of media would have us believe. And I'm not... It's not a conspiracy. That's a fact. Cases are rising again. Obviously, yesterday there were several shootings, and if you were involved in one, or you know anyone who was involved in one, I obviously can't help in any material way, but you know, it's the thoughts and prayers thing, but I don't pray, so I truly wish the best for you and your loved ones, and hopefully you never encounter that scenario. Obviously there's always several wars going on, so what I'm trying to, and natural disasters occur all the time. What I'm trying to say is this genre in particular is one that is very real and does manifest in the real world a lot. And while exploring through play can be cathartic for some people, it can also obviously trigger other people. So if you do need to step away from the show for whatever reason, I do not blame you whatsoever. Please look after yourself first. I will be doing this show, writing this material anyway, and I'm going to include trigger warnings in this document because it deserves them. And the topic that we're discussing today, and presumably for at least another stream, also deserves the same warning. Look after yourself first. Deal with this material when you're ready to. Okay. Anyone who's left, I assume you feel up to dealing with a discussion of disasters and tropes and things like that. And if at any point, obviously during the show, you feel like it's too much, feel free to leave. If you're in chat or you're watching this video on demand and can do so on YouTube, and I handle something in a way that you think is incorrect, I mean, as with any of the material, but particularly as because this has very real world applications is the wrong word, occurrences on a near daily basis, please do feel free to let me know if I'm being unsympathetic or hurtful or any negative effect. Please do. I want to make this material to allow and enable people to explore trauma through play and imagination, because it has therapeutic benefits, but I don't want to make it worse, and I want to handle it sensitively and maturely. So as I say, please do let me know if that becomes the case. So, disaster horror. I'm just going to recap the definition so that it's fresh in my head, and then we will, the definition of the guidance, so it's fresh in my own head, and then we'll just get started on the scene-wide mechanics. I will try to keep the tone of this episode as serious as possible. I'm not an overly serious person most of the time, but I recognise that, as I say, because disasters happen to real people on a daily basis, I do want to treat it, as I've said, sensitively, maturely. So, some levity will happen, but I will try to keep it grounded for once. For the purposes of this supplement, disaster horror is a genre of horror that is focused around unavoidable catastrophe on many scales, and many is going to be key here for the stuff that I work on today. It's going to range from natural disasters towards at larger scales, and slashes to external manifestations of the breakdown of interpersonal relationships at smaller scales. So it doesn't have to be physical. A disaster can be an emotional event. Due to the inevitability of the disaster, stories that are set within this genre may feel overwhelmingly futile and deal to no small extent with overtones of tragedy, namely that circumstances occur that could easily be avoided if the characters within them were able to act in any other way, but choose to follow the paths they do because of who they are and the values they hold. Classic example of this is, Romeo and Juliet. It's not a romance, it's a tragedy. By the end of the play, they could choose not to commit suicide, but that's the path that they are on. That is who they are. They have the ability to step off of the path, but at no point do they consider doing so, because it's not true to themselves. And that's what literature-based tragedy is. It's when a character could act in a completely different manner, but it doesn't even occur to them to do so. And so the sadness and, let's say, the negative emotions happen because of the inherent personality of the character. Unlike most genres discussed in this supplement, disaster horror has a much greater chance of encouraging hope between characters involved in the story, as it provides a platform for them to bring out the best in each other in the face of seemingly insurmountable odds. Telling a story that balances the futility of action in the face of something completely out of the character's control, while also highlighting this optimism and hope, is not easily done, but the following suggestions should help when writing scenarios in this genre. First thing to be aware of, and to decide, is the nature of the disaster itself, as that will affect every other decision you make as the story guide. Story guide being Trinity Continuum's term for the Game Master, GM. Whether the players or their characters are aware of what awaits them, you should feel free to provide increasingly obvious and detailed hints, clues as it draws near. The nature of the disaster will, in all likelihood, allow you to draw upon other genres of horror. For example, a slasher following a group of teens at summer camp will likely include some kind of body and psychological horror, whilst a looming natural disaster could draw upon folk horror as lines of communication break down. Secondly, you should encourage your players to engage in moments of roleplay that are not directly about the coming disaster, whether between themselves or story guide characters, these moments will allow them to reaffirm their connections to other people and draw strength from an otherwise hopeless situation. These interactions do not need to be all positive, but they simply serve as a reminder of what is at stake and what will be lost if they are unsuccessful. Alternatively, you can use these moments as a way to highlight how other characters are reacting to the situation in order to show them how far they could fall and to force them to question their own morality. Now, obviously, stuff like this is, and this is all like writer's commentary, stuff like this is obviously harder to codify within game mechanics. So, the disaster horror, most horror actually, will be leaning more upon the narrative and what's happening in that and the roleplay than actual mechanics. Mechanics, obviously, in almost all role-playing games, are there simply to inform and direct the role-playing, not the game itself, if that makes sense. The final thing to bear in mind is that, depending on the scale of the disaster, the players may not be able to succeed in the traditional sense of the word. They can trap a slasher, but not stop a tidal wave, for example. But they should be able to succeed at their goals, even if the world around them is overtaken by a disaster. If, for example, they find themselves at the mercy of an oncoming drought, success could be restoring an irrigation system and finding a plentiful water source, rather than stopping the drought entirely. An alternative to consider is when creating disaster horror scenarios, success should be measured in degrees, where a limited success could be imprisoning the slasher, and a greater success could be keeping their story out of the media to prevent copycats. And just to kind of double down on that point, obviously most horror media has not necessarily a happy ending, but a positive one. Let's say, let's call it a positive ending. The slasher is killed. The chosen people. No. The cast of characters that the media has been following survive the apocalypse. A cure is found just before humanity reaches the point of no return in terms of population decline. And all of that obviously could have been better. Like, the cure could be found 6 months before and millions more people saved. Or the disaster could be diverted at the last second through, I don't know, fancy fake movie science. So success by degree doesn't necessarily work in many other horror genres particularly. I mean, it's a given in cosmic horror, because in cosmic horror, one of the core tenets is that we can't do anything to impact or avert the beings from beyond the realm of time and space, right? That's just not a thing we can do. But in like psychological horror, body horror, a lot of the time there'll be a clear victor, and the only gradation of success would be, well, if you'd solved this problem earlier, 2 more people would have been alive. So while it's more important to consider it in terms of that, with the caveat that this is for a role-playing game, and the expectation that the players will be trying to keep their characters alive throughout it. I mean, they don't necessarily have to, obviously. But with the expectation that the player characters will be surviving, or doing everything within their power to survive, and with the understanding that most story guides are not antagonistic to their player characters, they just help facilitate the story. In an ideal situation, all of the player characters will survive. They'll have told a cool story. They may have been pushed to their limits, whether physically, in terms of they were one hit away from being taken out, or mentally, but they'll still be survivors. They will still, as a group, have survived the events of the story. Whereas with disaster horror, yes, they probably will survive, but because disaster horror has such a scale to it that not necessarily other genres do. Again, we're ignoring cosmic horror. It's an outlier. The gradation of success thing becomes very much a a metric by which the narrative can be measured, I guess. A quick note on scale. Scale does exist in the story path system. Scale is a mechanic whereby your actions against creatures that have smaller scale than you are amplified, and where your actions against not just necessarily creatures but against things that have a larger scale than you are lessened. So for example, if you are in a foot race with a car, let's say, you'll scale 1 because that's average. The car could be scale 2, could even be scale 3, and the difference in scale is I think multiplied. I think it's multiplied in this game because scale's also in Trinity in Scion, and they came from, and it's slightly different in all of them. Where is the table? I thought there was a table for scale. Okay, here it is. So narrative scale. So in like in broad strokes, narrative scale, you multiply the number of successes by the difference in scale. So if it's a car at scale 3, that's a difference of 2, so you multiply all of its successes by 2, assuming I'm understanding this correctly. Triplet, sorry. You multiply by 2 at rank 1, triple at rank 2, multiply by 3 at rank 3, etc. Multiply by 4 at rank 3, sorry. Dramatic scale, for when it becomes more granular, dramatic scale is enhancement or increased difficulty. For the my words, they have gone. It's an enhancement or an increased difficulty of 2 for each difference in scale. So going back to the car example, if you're in a foot race against a car at scale 3 and you're at scale 1, the difference in scale is 2, so the car has 4 enhancement on the roll, and enhancement being automatic successes, as long as a success is rolled. So that's a very stumbling, incoherent explanation of the scale system. I do apologise. There are better explanations out there. But because it's implemented slightly differently across the 3 game lines I mentioned, it's... And I wasn't expecting to talk about it, but it's just something that occurred to me. I had to, explain on the fly, and sometimes these things aren't terribly well thought out. But that's just content creation. Live content creation specifically. Obviously, if you're recording this, or if you're doing recorded content creation, or if you're doing just written content creation, you can edit all you want. I don't have that. This is live, gosh dang it. Although it now occurs to me I could pre-record these, but that would kind of defeat the purpose of the show, because this is a community show. The idea is to engage the community. So I couldn't pre-record them, in point of fact, unless I'm just there in chat answering questions through text, but it's not as easy, nor is it as convenient. Although I guess I could see if... I doubt they'll want a rerun of the show, in all fairness. Anyway, so scale acts as a multiplier, let's simplify it to say that scale acts as a way of adjusting successes based on relative difference between, I'll just say actors for ease, because it's not always going to be 2 people. And I'm not going to be talking about that here, because scale is something that it's pretty clear cut, really. you either have scale or you don't. It's not all that much to tweak. I mean, yes, you can do like characters doing a specific thing gain +1 scale or -1 scale, and that would most likely be under a gift anyway. But when I'm talking about scale here, I'm talking about I can't even say narrative scale because that's a game term. I'm talking about scale with a small s. It's not a game term. It is literally the scale at which things happen. Oh, pardon me. Although now I've said that I won't include scale, I can think of a thing that would perfectly work as a scaling mechanic because it involves scale. So the issue that I have here, and why I've been going on about scale for what feels like the past 15 minutes, is that everything I write for disaster horror kind of has to fit in whatever disaster is being written, is being created, whatever kind of story is being told. So it could be the disaster of a slasher, but it could also be apocalyptic floods. Just for context, I wasn't thinking of Noah there, I was thinking of 2012, the, I'm going to say, watchable disaster movie. But equally, of course, like the Poseidon Adventure is a disaster horror film because the ship is sinking. There is a definite end point there. So I need to grab some headings and then we'll get started because I've got some ideas for optional mechanics. Nope. I want that. I want that. I want that. Haha! And then I should be on the next page. It is fantastic. For added effect story guide. Okay, so due to the, I guess, nature of this genre of horror, these mechanics will likely apply to all characters in the scene, if not the scenario. Okay, so we're going to have impending doom. Let's call it sense of inevitability. Sense of inevitability. That's not how you spell that word at all. That also needs to be, I want to say heading 3. Yes, wonderful. So optional mechanics, as a reminder, are like scene-wide mechanics. Rather than applying to, rather than being character options or anomaly powers that antagonists can use. So let's think about how to phrase this. As the thank you, auto check. As the spell check, as the disaster looms, the pressure on the players increases, on the characters increases. As the story guide, you should assign the disaster itself a scale ranging from 1 affecting a small group of people to I think in the TC core book it ranges from 1 to 6. So because we'll only be using this book. Yep. We're also going to use the range 1 to 6. From 1 affecting a small group of people to 6. An apocalyptic event. whenever the disaster is the primary I'll say threat in a scene, all momentum expenditure is increased by an amount equal to half the disaster's scale. Rounding up. Does that work? Yes, that works. So, just as the pressure increases, that drive to push oneself to be better that momentum kind of represents just becomes harder to draw upon, right? You're running out of hope, you're running out of optimism, so you're a lot more likely to make mistakes, to falter at a critical moment, to not be able to tap into that wellspring of stubbornness that drives most player characters. I'll be honest, as is usual, I had one idea, and that was it. So that's the sense of inevitability. That's like the high stakes pressure bearing down upon a character. What else is tropey for a disaster movie? I guess emotional outbursts, pretty tropey. I don't know if I should make more of this scale for a disaster. I don't think I necessarily need to. Anyway, so emotional outbursts, breakdown in communication, distrust. A lot of this stuff is covered elsewhere in the supplement is the issue. But I'm at 8,708 words, so it's natural that things I'm thinking of have been covered elsewhere at this point. What else? Could go the other way. Could have like improvise, like hasty plan or improvised equipment. I mean, it could just straight up give non-talents the ability to edit for dramatic editing by spending momentum instead. Actually. I have an idea. Plan for the worst. Just need to figure out how to word this based on the wording in the book. Complex actions. Okay, let's say a character may undertake an extended complex action with a number of milestones between 2 and let's say with between 2 and 5 milestones. Each interval takes roughly, I think interval is the game term. Hang on, please bear with me now, I'm doubting myself. It just says time between rolls. So the time between rolls is left to the story guide's discretion, but should be no less than 10 minutes and no more than 1 hour. Success at this action generates a pool of enhancement that can be granted to any rolls made for the end of the act, I guess. Act being the session, until it is emptied through use. Generates a pool of enhancement equal to number of milestones. Number of milestones. That can be granted to any rolls that can be spent on a 1-for-1 basis to add enhancement on any roll made before the end of the act. So, like, they take some time to think ahead, and then it gives them equipment or backup plans that the player doesn't need to think of, but their character has already thought of them. Dice pool required for this action is left to the story guide's discretion. Based upon the player's idea about how their character plans. Because in this system, the player can suggest which dice pool they might like to use, and as long as they're reasonably, as long as there's a good foundation for them to do it that way, sure, why not? Go for it. Okay, obviously, those of you who are watching who have not been here before, all of this is first draft material. It is subject to change. If not drastic change, it will need polishing at least, and parsing after the fact. So if you can see obvious flaws with it, please do point them out. I'm not terribly attached to my material. I will fix it and admit that I'm not like perfect at anything. But yeah, it's all very much work in progress. But that's those are the mechanics. So skill tricks now. Now the obvious one will be survival, and I'm going to have to open all of these to see if I've used survival before, so I don't tread on, so I don't just repeat myself. Okay, so I've got follow me if you can. So that's about tracking and that's about faking your own tracks. Okay, cool. That's not really going to be a problem for in this instance. So what do we have in the core rulebook for survival? Animals. Escaping situations. Surviving in the wilderness. And hiding and not being tracked. Sorry, I was just checking that the not being tracked one didn't overlap too much with follow me if you can. It seems okay. Should be fine. Okay, so I know it's going to be a survival trick. So survival. Here's where I could do plan for the worst actually, but I'm not going to because I firmly believe that everyone should have access to the ability to plan ahead. In character, even if they don't necessarily know what they want to do out of character. You know what? So these are, again, if you're new here, if you haven't seen the rest of the season, a lot of the for the skill tricks, edges, and gifts, I will have one that is a passive engagement with the genre, so it's genre aware, but the character itself isn't actively interacting with whatever. And one active engagement with the genre. So I feel like survival, by its definition, is usually going to be an active skill. Like it requires an engagement with your environment. So let's call it Go Bag. You always have the right thing to hand when you absolutely need it. I need to check something in the book, so please do bear with me. Whilst I scroll frantically through the index. Which is less than helpful. What if I want just, I don't know, generic equipment? I can see that I'm going to have to be like, hey, you can have an item with one tag. There's weapons and armor. Okay, you know what? Heck it. I just need to check wording. That didn't help. You may spend, let's say, up to 3 momentum. You may spend up to 3 momentum to declare you have something about your person that can help with the circumstances you find yourself in. You can then produce an item of equipment, a piece of equipment, sorry. That provides level level of enhancement equal to the momentum spent. See, it seems kind of mean to just break it after one use. Oh, you know what? You can then produce a piece of equipment that provides a level of enhancement equal to the momentum spent. This enhancement lasts until after the item is used, at which point it confers a level 1 enhancement on all the future rolls. There you go. It doesn't provide the same level of enhancement because you've dinged it, you've lessened it in some way, but it's still useful. You still, because there's a resource being expended here. I don't want to be like, hey, it's just one use and gone. Equal to the momentum spent minus 1. So that means that the most you'll be getting is level 2 enhancement. But then it persists. And you have that item on hand. I'm good with that. What else? So that's the active. That's the full thought and planning to deal with the disaster. I guess the passive could be like roll with the punches, and you're just a naturally optimistic person. I said that as kind of a joke, but I kind of like that as an idea actually. Yeah, sure, why not? I guess that'll be empathy. I think empathy is the name of the skill. Yep. I guess empathy makes the most sense here. It could be command, it could be integrity. But empathy is more emotional resonance. Empathy, roll with the punches. You're naturally optimistic, a trait which inspires others. Whenever you address a group of people with the intention of raising their spirits, you may activate the skill trick to, I guess it would just lower the difficulty by 1. I guess this would be an atmosphere thing. Attitude thing, sorry. No, it would be an atmosphere thing. Maybe just a group of people with the intention of raising their spirits. Or attempt to positively alter an atmosphere. Should this be capitalized? No. You may activate this skill trick to decrease the difficulty by 1. I think it's with new numbers and not. Hang on, I think there's one in survival that. Yes. Use the numeral, not the word, so I'll have to go and edit that for consistency. Sorry, don't capitalize with. I'll have to edit that for consistency when I go through on my editing pass, on one of my editing passes. A note on that: if you are a solo creator, do more than one editing pass. I usually aim for about 3. Any more than that, and you'll typically start just making problems up to solve. Any fewer than that, and more things will slide through will escape your notice. I can't really provide any more advice than that because everyone, I edit with instrumental music playing in the background, usually video game soundtracks. But I know some people get really distracted by that and prefer silence. So it's entirely how you focus best. But I'd advise 2 at a minimum, 3 ideally, until you're comfortable with the process, and then whatever number suits you best. But I would highly advise always doing more than 1 editing pass. Mostly because even if you get all of the errors on that first pass, there is every chance you have introduced errors with your editing that you'll then need to fix on your second pass. I'll actually check to see if this isn't an existing empathy skill trick while I'm thinking about it, because that would be awkward. No. Okay, so that's the skill tricks. Now the edges. These are always tricky because of the whole passive and active thing. But I'll see what I can do for you, chat. I'll see what I can do for you. Hopefully I have not disappointed anyone yet over the 14 episodes of this series. Okay. I don't have any ideas for edges, or gifts for that matter. I guess naturally resourceful, and just lowers the difficulty of improvising stuff. Yeah, sure, why not? Mental. Naturally resourceful. I would call this a 2-dot thing. I've lost it. There it is. So 2-dot rating. Natural talent and intuition. I missed out an N. People are watching me type, and I do stuff like that. You are able to overcome most problems. Also, I apologize about the typing noises. I can't do anything about them. I got the quietest keyboard that I could, but the only space on my desk that I can put the microphone to type easily is directly behind the keyboard. I don't really have space for a microphone arm in my little corner of this room. So I'm doing the best I can. I'm going to try to figure out if I can elevate the microphone any so it's not directly on the desk, but then run the risk of it being in the camera, field of view. I suppose the other alternative is to go back to a headset microphone, and I do have one within arm's reach, but I feel like the voice quality isn't as clear. Through natural talent and intuition, you're able to overcome most problems related to improvisational tools. When you are undertaking is the wrong action. Is the wrong word. When you undertake an action of any kind with improvised tools, you suffer no penalty for using those tools. So, I don't know if there's an actual penalty for using improvised equipment. Equipment usually, if it's specifically for the for the purpose that you're using it, usually gives you like 1 enhancement on the roll. But there isn't really anything that I can see at a quick glance about tools and equipment that isn't related to combat. But that's generally how I would handle it. So this doesn't really have a grounding in the rules as such much as it has a grounding in the logical way that I would extrapolate items and equipment to work. Because there's no list of tools or costs or anything. Because it's just assumed that you'll have like standard everyday items to hand, and the narrative and your character will determine if you can afford to buy other stuff. And obviously edges and things will help with that as well. Particularly the wealth edge. So, sorry, I was just rereading the wealth edge. So a lot of the onus when it comes to equipment and purchasing equipment is on the story guide to decide if a character can afford it or not. And like, that's fine, but it means there's no discrete rules for equipment and tool usage. So this just removes any penalty for using improvised tools that a GM may apply. And obviously if a story guide may apply, and if your story guide doesn't make that ruling, if it doesn't work that way, you don't have to use this edge. It's just there as an extra thing. But that's a passive engagement anyway. The link here to the genre being obviously like you're trapped and you have to break out with a piece of wood that probably shouldn't be used as a lever, but you can because you can overcome the weakness in the wood by bracing it properly, for example. I can argue pretty much anything, so I will justify all of my work, and it will sound reasonably convincing. So that's a passive thing, an active thing. I guess turn the tables. Maybe this would be like a once per probably story to get the upper hand. Because I feel like once per act means that it takes away the weight of the edge. I'm thinking to be like a 1 or a 2 dot edge that you can use once per story. So even though it's a cheap edge to pick up, it has a big narrative effect. Could have 2, because I'm thinking give it an initiative thing where you just get to the top of the initiative once per story, but also maybe enhancement on let's go with an enhancement on traps and things. What would this be? Mental, physical, or social? I guess this would be mental again. I think most of these the edges I've created for this are mental. Body horror, obviously. Yeah, I don't mind particularly about that. Mental, turn the tables. Let's call this a 2 dot. Why not? Turn the table. There's only the one table apparently. Turn the tables. Quick-witted enough to gain the upper hand when the situation is dire. Oh, I guess it could be when someone is taken out. Yeah, sure, why not? So the first thing, you gain level 1 enhancement. Again, I don't know if it's worded level 1 enhancement, but for now I just want to get writing down. I've been referring to enhancements and complications as levels throughout. I think it should just be you gain +1 enhancement, but I just want to get the material down so that when I go through editing I can make everything consistent. You gain a level 1 enhancement on rolls to avoid traps and other environmental dangers. Additionally, the first time an ally is taken out, you I think is we create an initiative slot at the top of the initiative. But I will check the wording for this kind of thing, because particularly when it comes to combat scenes, wording is very important. Initiative, just zoom in so I can read it properly. Because I'm pretty sure it's just player slots, and then you choose who takes up which slot. Yes, so all of the players create a slot in the initiative roster. All of the all of the story guide characters create a slot in the initiative roster, and then the players choose who uses which slot on a round-to-round basis. Additionally, the first time an ally is out, you move the lowest player character initiative tick, I think it's called. Nope, slot. Players character initiative slot to the top of the initiative roster until the end of the scene. You know what? This works out as a per scene thing now, I think, because it's only going to happen once per scene. And it's very limited, because by the time an ally is taken out, it's likely you won't have that many antagonists left. So that's good. I think we're good. I think we're good with those two. They're very short compared to some of the other edges I've written. Well, not really, actually. So gifts. Any gifts you create as well. There's 2 prisms here. Are concerned with extreme effects and situations talents can endure. I think that's been the same throughout, right? Yes, and that's just like an example of how a gift works. Gifts. Gifts tied to skills. I feel like survival is definitely one. Do I tie it in with the sense of inevitability thing? I don't want to. I don't want to make reference to an optional mechanic, because by its definition it's optional. So I don't want the gift to be useless. I want it to still be a viable option, even if that's all you're using from this book. Dramatic editing to lower environmental hazards, though. So pretty sure environmental is a tag, right? Damage tag? Damage dealing? I'll check. I've got the book open. Don't mind me. Other forms of damage. Indirect damage tags. Yes. So if I call this, what would I call it? Maybe like second glance. As in, like, it's not as bad as it first appeared. It's probably it would. Actually, I guess this would be a look gift. Yeah. So let's call it second glance for now. I guess look. I did another look one, didn't I, somewhere? I thought I had. Was it in the comic? Oh, I didn't even assign these. Whoops. Yeah, look down here. I need to copy paste and then dash over. Curses. There we go. Also, please expand. Thank you. And that was. There we go. Okay. Anyway, back to what I was doing. Gifts. Look, second glance. You know what? I could have just taken the template. I'm an idiot. You are adept at noticing how things may not be as bad as they appear at first glance. Keywords. Look and momentary. No prerequisite for this one. You can just do it. System. Oops. You may spend up to, let's say, 3 points of inspiration. To reduce. Okay, so I'm just going to make direct reference to the tags now. For those who do not know, I guess I should explain. Gifts are so edges, which I've already covered. Edges are more like merits in other story in Chronicles of Darkness. They're just things that your character has access to, whether through training, happenstance, luck. Gifts are the supernatural-ish abilities that talents get, and talents are people with a connection to a multiversal energy known as flux, but they can use their gifts to warp reality around them. Not necessarily realizing what they're doing, but it definitely warps reality around them. I think... I'm just checking something. Yes, okay. To reduce the difficulty of rolls made to withstand environmental damage. The effects of environmental damage. Often the continuous, deadly, or non-lethal tags. by an amount equal to the inspiration spent. This gift may also be used to reduce the damage. Sorry, 1 second. Maybe to reduce the difficulty of rolls made to withstand the effects of environmental damage. Actually, deadly doesn't have a number. It just has how long you take, how often you get the injury condition from it. By an amount equal to the number of inspiration spent. I feel like that's okay. Like, sure, if you're willing to spend up to 3 points of inspiration, at that point you're functionally just dramatically editing the source, the damaging, like the poison gas or whatever, out of the scene. I spend up to 3 points of inspiration to reduce the difficulty of a roll you make. Only affect you. Temporarily, you can withstand the effects of whatever better than perhaps you ordinarily could. So that's like if the ceiling is falling down and you get hit by debris, or to let's say to withstand or avoid the effects of environmental damage. So like if you are like avoiding falling debris from the ceiling, or being hit with a tidal wave, that kind of thing. Let's say the effects of you know what? Let's widen this. Let's just say. You know what? Let's go with environmental damage and traps. But please note, like, this does not. Please note, this gift does not remove the source of damage from the scene. It merely allows you to better resist it. Okay, so that's again that's a passive thing, more of a passive engagement with the genre. I know you're expending a resource to do it, but I still feel like it's more of a passive. It's more of a reactionary thing than a than anything else. I need one more gift, and if I can get this gift written in like the next 10 minutes, go me, because then I can do my outro, and I'll have completed the supplement apart from the anomalous powers, which will, in theory, be a lot of fun to write next time. So, second kind of thing. I've done improvisation. I have like just the tool for this. Everything I can think of is a passive thing, like removing field qualities or adding them so that you can run away faster or so that you can delay pursuers. Do I want to do extra options for dramatic editing? But again, that's more of a passive thing. Huh. Gifts, why are you like this? Please bear with me while I hydrate to buy time to think. I mean, active engagement in the disaster genre is generally dealing with the immediate effects of the disaster, like turning to fight the slasher, constructing flood defenses, researching a vaccine, that kind of thing, rather than just allowing it to happen around you. So with that in mind, I feel like a lot of the disaster genre will involve complex actions. So I guess technically it could be like, hey, just you can spend a point of inspiration and you complete a milestone with no additional successes. Does that work? Because it's broad enough to apply in any game. Kind of useful, but still like niche enough because it only affects complex actions. And as I say, I do anticipate the disaster. Like from a narrative standpoint, obviously disasters often will require things that take preparation and setup to deal with. The flood defenses, irrigation systems, vaccine research, traps for slashers, fortifications in times of war. So yeah, I think that will actually work, and it seems like a talent thing to be able to just like, oh, by the way, I've done the first milestone already. So let's go back to the different kinds of action. Yeah, let's do that. I guess it'll be like efficient worker or something. Probably link it to composure, keeping you calm. Or integrity, I suppose. No, I like composure for this. I guess composure, stamina, and resolve would be prerequisites. Or resolve would be prerequisites, but I'll just tie it to composure for the immediate, keeping your calm thing. I know it's not high spell efficient. I don't know what I was thinking. Nope. My brain has gone completely to mush. I do apologise. There we go. Composure, efficient worker. That needs to be a heading. Keywords, attribute, resolve. I'll just go along the order they are on the character sheet. Resolve, stamina, or composure. I guess technically it's a momentary thing because it's always on. You can always choose to do it, but no, it'll be momentary. That would be constant though. Prerequisite: resolve 3, or stamina 3, or composure 3. When you put your mind to completing a task, nothing can distract you from it. System. When you undertake a complex action, You may spend a point of inspiration to either complete a milestone with no additional successes. So if you roll additional successes, you can convert them to enhancement on the next roll for a milestone. So this is just, you complete it, but you don't get the bonus for having rolled well, if there was a chance you would roll well. You may spend a point of inspiration to either complete a milestone with no additional successes, or halve the time between rolls for the current milestone. Yeah, I'm not going to limit it, because you can do this as many points of inspiration that you have. I'm happy with that. It's simple, it's clean, more importantly, and I do like to have things that are clean. And it's just not overly complex. And not everything has to be overly complex. And this is something that I know I fall into the trap of, and I would advise people who are considering writing community content out there to be aware of them. After a while of writing content, you kind of get a feel for how you do it, and it helps reading other people's content, obviously. And if you are writing community content, presumably you're reading the rulebooks as well. And when I started writing content for my own games, for context, I have an overly florid way of speaking. You may have noticed. It manifests when I write as well. I'm a big fan of long, technically grammatically correct sentences, but they can be shortened to be punchier, to be more concise. And this was something that would bleed into my content creation. Was the effect was there? It was doing what I wanted it to do, but it was just overly wordy. And it wasn't until I started seriously thinking about writing community content, when the DM's Guild happened and stuff like that, that after I put out my first couple of pieces on the DM's Guild, I was like, I'm not happy with this. This is technically correct material, but it could be more concise. It could be easier to understand. And the way I see things now is that, yes, I'm writing community content for people to use. Getting paid to do it is nice, don't get me wrong, the payment is nice, but I would be doing this for free if that was the only way I could do it. And some of my work is pay what you want anyway. But the content for me fulfills two requirements. It enhances the experience of a game, so I prefer writing player options to adventures, if I'm being honest. I'm happy to write adventures. I like writing adventures. I just prefer writing player options. So it's got to enhance the game in some way. It's not just repeating what's already existent in the game line. But it's also got to be easy to use, whether for the player or the story guide. Because if the player can't use it, if the player is interested but reads it and is confused, they're not going to use it. And to take it from me as a forever GM story guide, whatever you want to call it, if it's complicated, I'm going to forget it, or I'm going to use it incorrectly. Just please don't. Please make things that are easy to use. There's enough going on for the story guide, GM, what have you, to keep track of, that clean, concise, mechanical explanations will go a long way in providing those ratings. And I know that most people who buy a product on Drive-Thru-RPG, what have you, don't leave a review or a rating, but I firmly believe you're more likely to get one if it's good material, and that means readable and usable material. Right, I need to provide an example up here. The second glance, for example, could relate to the talent seeing a gap in a cloud of smoke, or identifying the weak part of a trap as it is sprung. Just some examples of how that works. Now, before I go into the outro, I will admit something. So, obviously there's music playing in the background because it was an effort to cover up the typing noises, but I also feel like it's more interesting to listen to the stream with the background music, particularly when I'm reading the rules quickly and I'm silent. I do try to avoid dead air as much as I can, but you know, it creeps in. It's a natural part of the writing process where I just have to think for a moment without running my mouth. By the way, if you have any feedback on the music, please do let me know in the Twitch chat or in the YouTube comments. I made it myself. I'm not afraid to change it if there's things you feel could be better about it. I just wanted to provide something vaguely thematically suitable for what I'm writing about, that isn't too distracting, but also, you know, helps with focus and stuff. Sorry, wind. So today, swift recap of the material. Today I've covered everything apart from the definition and guidance for disaster horror. We've done optional mechanics, we've done skill tricks, we've done edges, we've done gifts, and I'm largely happy with where they all are. As I said, things can change during the editing process, and that's just the nature of writing, right? It's very rare that you'll get everything perfect first time, and you should just be aware of that. It's something to bear in mind. A lot of the material that I write off stream, I heavily rewrite in the editing process. Less so with the streamed material, because as I'm talking it out, I'm thinking about it in more detail than I would off stream, which buys me that time to identify weakness in phrasing or a concept that I can then polish as I go on stream rather than having to rewrite it entirely off stream. Although shout out to that half hour I spent in the Frostlands of Fenrir streams, one of the Frostlands of Fenrir streams, where I was agonizing over the wording of a mechanic. But that's something that I wouldn't do in the first draft if I'm writing off stream. But outro time, I guess. Yeah, sure, why not? I'll do the social medias outro first, and then we'll do the fake Monday meeting notes, and then the actual Onyx Path news. So social medias, as I said at the start of the stream, my name is Ryan, or Comrade Bubbles. I am on Twitch and Twitter, both of those as Comrade Bubbles. I'm also on the Onyx Path Discord server as Comrade Bubbles, so if I ever reply to anything or leave a snarky comment or make a pun, you know who to blame now. It's me. I'm always happy to talk about role-playing games on Twitter. I'm always happy to talk about role-playing games on my Twitch channel. I don't stream actual plays all that often on my Twitch channel. I haven't streamed on it quite some time. It's mostly video game content 3 days a week. But I'm always happy to hang out with cool people and chat role-playing games and stuff. And we've got a really nice, chill community growing up over there of just a myriad of interests, and that's what you like to see in a community. I do also hang around in the stream for about 5 minutes after the stream, after the post roll goes, to answer any lingering questions. But the best place to find me will be Twitter, and then Twitch and the Discord server. If you've enjoyed the stream, or if you've come in halfway through and you want to catch up with it, Twitch does have a video on demand service. It's the videos tab on the main page. If you are not a subscriber to the Onyx Path Twitch channel, you will not be able to watch the video on demand for a week. Subscribers get a week's exclusivity. If you have an Amazon Prime account, you can link it to your Twitch Prime account to create to your Twitch account to create a Prime Gaming account, which gives you one free subscription a month. It does not auto-renew, but it's all of the benefits for you and the channel that you subscribe to as a standard tier 1 subscription, except that it's air quotes free. After that week is up, this video will be available to view on the Onyx Path Twitch channel. I've got to stop saying Discord. On the Onyx Path Twitch channel. And then sometime between Tuesday and Friday next week, this video will go up on my YouTube channel. I don't have a fancy URL. You'll have to manually search for Comrade Bubbles behind the screen on YouTube. Oh, well, thank you for subscribing, Pramster. Yeah, as Pramster said, do it. I double dare people in chat right now to subscribe to the channel. Wouldn't that just stick it to Onyx Path? Show them how little you care about their products. You aren't even willing to support them on Twitch. I don't know where I was going with that. I apologise. That was a bit aggressive. But every past episode of this show is up on my YouTube channel. It does not go up on the Onyx Path YouTube channel. And I'm grateful to the Onyx Path for allowing me to retain control of the show. And even though obviously they're hosting it on their Twitch channel. Yeah, so I'll do it in the opposite order. I'll do the actual, like the official Onyx Path news, and then people can peace out if they don't want to hear my fake Monday meeting notes. So Onyx Path news. Please bear with me while I open my other Word document. The next. So as I said at the start of the episode, because it was the 4th of July yesterday, there was no Monday meeting notes. The meeting is happening, as far as I'm aware, today, but it's like 5 to 11 Eastern, so it's not going to happen until probably the afternoon. So there's no Monday meeting notes, but the next crowdfunding campaign will be Trinity Continuum Ether. That link will take you to the first piece of a serialized fiction, serial fiction. To promote it. I glanced through it earlier. It's pretty good. Steampunk sci-fi. What's not to like? Unless you don't like steampunk sci-fi, obviously, in which case. Also, if you are curious about project timelines and things, the June release roundup was released. And that is the master list of where all the projects are at the time of the roundup, as well as all of the projects that were released in June. It's an intimidating list. There are a lot of products on it. And if you are curious about where any products are that you're following, that's the best place to do it. Obviously, the Monday meeting notes includes the updates about projects that have moved along, but that's the snapshot of where things are at the end of June 2022. Now, everyone who is also the current sale for the 10th anniversary celebrations running until Saturday. It's Vampire the Requiem 2nd edition, so if you've been on the fence about grabbing the Vampire rulebook, in PDF at least. Thank you, Pramster. So I have OBS set up so I can track my own Twitch channel stuff, and Pramster has followed me on Twitch. Thank you. I really appreciate it. I will be going live in about half an hour after the show ends with some Paradise Killer if anyone does want to hang out. Where was I? Yes. If you're on the fence about Vampire the Requiem, the PDF for the main book, as well as several supplements, is 90% off, so it is ridiculously cheap right now. And Vampire 2nd edition is a lot of fun, as someone who's both played and run it, so highly recommend checking that out. The schedule, for anyone who is curious, it will be in the post roll, but if you need to duck out for whatever reason, Wednesday 9 PM Eastern, Scarredlands, Sins of Shelzar, Dead Man's Rust. Friday 6 PM Eastern, Hunt of the Vigil, Twilight Network. Friday 8 PM Eastern, Mage to the Ascension, Neon Gore, Zocro, I think it's pronounced. Saturday 8 PM Eastern, Hunt of the Vigil, Black Royal, Regatta Decennium. And Sunday 8 PM Eastern, Trinity Continuum Assassins, Devil's Look Gaming. And that's the Twitch schedule for the coming week. That's all of the official stuff. So if you need to head out, completely understand. The unofficial Monday meeting news, as invented by me earlier today, I had a meeting with myself, and we determined that you should all go and buy our community content material. There's no two ways about it. You should just all go and buy it. It's available there. There's selection of things. There's some Scion material. There's some Chronicles of Darkness material. There's some Pugmire material. Trinity Continuum material. Scarredlands material. You can probably avoid my non-Onyx Path game on there if you want to, but hey, if you want to buy that, I'm not going to stop you. I believe in that project. I believe it's good. I believe it has worth. But the outcome of the Monday meeting notes was that I need to write more, and that is done through this show. So we are drawing to a close on this season of the show, and on the time limit I've been allotted. Although I can overrun, there's no one on for the rest of the day. for those who are interested in such things and missed it at the beginning, the next season of the show will be for Canis Minor. I'll be doing player options for NPCs for road wardens and bandits, so that kind of thing, highway creatures. If that tickles your fancy, which will be exciting because it's horrifying. This show is terrifying. I'll be honest. This show is completely terrifying. I'm constantly worried about messing things up. But hey, there we go. That's content creation in a nutshell. I think that's it. I promoted myself. Oh, also as an addendum to the Monday meeting notes, I have a Patreon. Please follow it if you're interested in D&D 5e material. You don't have to. It's fine. That link's on my Twitter account. On my Twitch account, actually. Exclamation links. But that's it. That's it from me, I think. So I have continued to be, and will likely always be, Comrade Bubbles. Pretty sure I'm going to keep my name as Ryan, but, depol might happen at some point in the future. But it's been a pleasure as ever to run to host this show and to demonstrate content creation for people. Hopefully it's been interesting or entertaining, whether because of quality or just lack of quality. Hopefully you come back in 2 weeks' time, because this show is bi-weekly or fortnightly. So on the 19th of July, all things being well, I shall return, and we shall be doing anomaly powers for antagonists to have access to, representing the various genres of horror that have been that are shown in this document. But stream is always great. Thank you, Prampster. I really appreciate it. I like a lot of creative people, I suffer from anxiety. I have terrible mental health. I'm aware of this, and I get an awful lot of performance anxiety. So thank you. I appreciate the kind words, and I'll remember them until next stream, and then the terror will be back. It's not even really exaggerated. Sometimes it genuinely is terrifying, putting yourself out there into the void of Twitch and YouTube, I suppose. But yeah, that's it from me for another 2 weeks. Thank you all for watching. Please do stay safe. Please do stay healthy. Please do stay wholesome. And I'll see you all next time. Goodbye. I will be in chat for about 5 minutes after during the post roll. So if you have questions, feel free to ask them. If not, please do pet pets. Tell them good pets. And I'll see you next time.